What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data, we do have a lot of big ones coming out. So starting off on Monday, consumer inflation expectations. Current forecast is 3.1, so that's going to be coming out at 10 a.m. on Monday. Tuesday, non-farm payroll. And so ultimately, when it comes down to that, we did have a lot of big updates, labor-linked data points last week that gave us a 89% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut for the upcoming September 17th meeting. And in my opinion, that's already been fully priced into the market now. But one thing that potentially isn't is a 50 basis point cut. And right now there's only 11% likelihood of that occurring, but most likely, as far as data points this upcoming week, there isn't really that much that's going to change this outlook. So don't anticipate most likely the 50 basis point optimism to increase whatsoever, because Powell is more concerned with labor-linked data rather than the inflationary. And unfortunately, a lot of the data that's coming out this week is linked to inflation, such as PPI on Wednesday, CPI on Thursday, and then Michigan consumer sentiment. So most likely, a lot of these data points will impact the market, but won't really impact the likelihood of cuts. So don't anticipate the FOMO type of buy the dip mentality to continue into this upcoming week. As far as specific to SoFi, the only thing that's planned is this, and that's coming out Monday at 3:45, and that's just SoFi participating in the Goldman Sachs Communicapia and Technology Conference. So historically speaking, usually every time SoFi does these fireside chats, it does close in the green, and I think everyone is waiting for hints at when they're going to be launching crypto. So hopefully you have Anthony, the big head honcho, kind of unveiling some good Easter eggs and maybe giving some insight exactly when in 2025 will they unveil it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But as far as right now, this is the only thing that is planned. Companies unveiling the earnings, nothing really crazy that's going to move the market. Potentially some heavily shorted stocks might move with GameStop depending on the results, but I don't really see SoFi participating in that all that much. So 9.43% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 110.99 million shares overall are being shorted. So shorts haven't really been doing all that much. Even on Friday, they increased 143,000 shares, which was kind of abnormal for them, but generally it's moving in the right direction. DTC on a side note is 1.57 days. So still does signal that shorts are rather overextended. So that does factor in SoFi's average volume in comparison to number of shares being shorted. And then speaking of average volume, I did kind of mention this last week. I said that this week, so this last week, was going to be a big week because market was going to get some optimism associated to rate cuts, and that is exactly how it did play out. But aside from SoFi, a lot of other stocks are getting less and less volume. And based on the data that did come out as of Thursday, I think it was after hours, there was $52.37 billion leaving both crypto and equity to move back into money markets. So essentially, we are seeing things at all-time highs. So usually that is a sign that big money is hesitant. And so with a lot of the data coming out this week linked to inflation, this is where you could see potentially, if the data is negative, some consolidation. So I know I've mentioned this on and off, just something to be aware of. This week might be more of a consolidation type of scenario. Again, it's going to come down to the data points, right? So if the data comes in positive, then we're going to see a nice leg up. Flip side, if not. Looking at the options though, from a bulls standpoint, there is a consensus for it to be roughly between that $26 and $27, possibly even $28 range. Bears are anticipating for it to really break down to between that $23.50 and $24 range. But when it comes to the open interest from last week, with it closing exactly at $25.60, that does mean that the $25.50 and below strike prices are in the money. So you have 12,000 at that $25.50, 15,000 at that 25. So you won't really be seeing that crazy of a bump up. So no gamma squeeze or anything. Even looking forward into this upcoming week, you have kind of walls at 27, 28, but still nothing really significant. September the 19th though, that's a monthly chain. That one's a lot more active. So that one will be a key one to watch for. But essentially today, with it closing at 25.60, I guess on Friday, it is right below this pivot point. So 25.65 is going to be that key point to really get over early on in the week if you're going to see a nice push higher. 26.34 and then 26.76 is going to be the next round target / resistance points. And then flip side, if you're going to see some consolidation, 24.96 and then 24.54 followed by 23.86 is going to be support levels. So for those of you that want to buy the dip or swing trade or whatever else, just take a mental note of a lot of these. Potentially, dependent on what is stated at this conference by Anthony, you might see some ratings coming out. So let's say if they do hint at Q4, which keep in mind, that's almost like 3 weeks away, you might see some buying. Like if Anthony says, hey, you know what, sometime early on in Q4, we're going to be launching crypto on SoFi Invest. Well, that's going to obviously cause the stock price to go higher and most likely cause some new ratings. So it's been a good solid almost 2 weeks since we've had any ratings. So most likely some are kind of overdue and they're just waiting for the next big catalyst. So something as well just to keep in mind. Quickly going over here though, looking at kind of the market position. Like the last 4 trading days has been very volatile. You have the market reacting to the negative labor data, so causes sell-offs, and then luckily enough, because of what that means, meaning for rate cuts, it always gets bought up. But like I said, there's a lot of volatility, and with stocks getting less and less volume, you won't be seeing that dip get bought up as much as it once was this last week. So like I said, one key point to really watch for is at 25.37. That's that 10-day moving average, and that will kind of signal more of a trend change. And so luckily enough, like I said, the dip has been getting bought the last couple of trading days, but things could change very fast. Just no matter what, I've stated this in the past, even when it dipped to like $13 in like April and May, I said it's very difficult to catch the highs of SoFi and it's very difficult to catch the lows. Best thing to do is just dollar cost average. Like by over the next couple of years, SoFi is going to do amazing stuff. Their management team is on point. So I have no doubt that SoFi will be higher than these levels. But are we going to see more of a consolidated pullback? Most likely. So just anticipate that. No stock ever just goes up like crazy. So just don't get upset. Don't get emotional. For those of you that might get kind of panicked if SoFi does hit that $23 range, might be a sign that you are a little bit too heavy in SoFi. So just consider maybe hedging with options or taking the time to research and do all the other fun jazz. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you have pretty much a lot of good buys all the way up to roughly around that 24.50. So that's going to be another key element to kind of watch for. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. I think big things are coming. And like I said, once crypto is announced, then you'll see SoFi rocket like crazy. It's just a matter of when. So we'll have hopefully more information on that tomorrow. Pretty much this time tomorrow, give or take. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Where do you see things going? Do you think that this week is going to be more consolidation, or do you think that we are going to be hitting 27, 28, 29? Like I mentioned on my video on Friday, Elliott Wave Technicals actually does project for $29 to be hit. So potentially big things still are on the horizon. And I don't mean to spread any fear by me saying that you could see some consolidation. That's just reading the data and reading kind of the room for the most part. And in case you missed my Friday video, this is what the Elliott Wave Technicals are projecting. So for as long as it is above that 22.72, then 29.01 is anticipated. So pretty good stuff. And for those of you that have actually paid attention to the Elliott Wave Technicals, it's been very accurate. So again, anything is possible. Could hit 29 in the short term, could consolidate to 23 and then move to 29, or just might go to 35. Anything is possible. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fun ride. Stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend. Then one final thing, if you are looking for some solid buy signals, pop over to my Patreon, link in the description below and also the comments. I give out buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, daily day trades, multiple swing trades to add to your watch list, targets, and everything. So worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.